Hello and welcome to Extension in the City, the Just-in-Time Learning Series. This module is about entrepreneurial innovation in our larger cities. Today's agenda, you will learn about the entrepreneurial innovation context and the innovation process, and you'll gain the ability to manage a customer-focused experience and product portfolio. For yourself, you'll have activities in this module, such as looking at your own innovation characteristics and resources, looking at your organizational innovation assessment, getting engaged in improv, and if you haven't done that, it's a fun activity you can do with your team or your organization, and looking at your organizational resources. You'll have the opportunity for collaborative learning and options for your independent study as well as working with your team and organization. There are many terms for innovation. This is one from Leading Innovation in Government from the Partnership for Public Service and the Hay Group. And they look at innovation as really that improving, adapting, or developing. So there's different stages of that process, a product, service, or system that adds value from a customer's point of view. So it's not just about new programs and extension. It really involves that different approaches, different product systems or services, and essentially the essential part of this is really adding value from a customer's point of view. And as innovative leaders, looking at what we do to cultivate an environment where this improvement, adaptation, and invention, they're encouraged, fostered, and rewarded. So people feel like it's okay to fail. It's like fail often, early, cheaply, so that we can have this cycle of innovation that adds that value for customers. Extension innovation has been reflected throughout our history in many ways through different programs, projects, products, and services. In this module, I'll also often use the term product to refer to programs, projects, and services. Just that one term to kind of cover that broad area. It's also reflected in our processes, in our communications with both internal and external audiences. We have opportunities for innovation through our research and digital scholarship, and really building on our rich history of our approach to participatory innovation as we engage in co-discovery in our cities. It is about program development, but it's also about much more. As we look at the entrepreneurial theory and that context with innovation, it's really about context, context, context. We've talked in previous modules about entrepreneurial orientation and leadership and that important factor of innovation or innovativeness that is studied from an organizational and individual factor. Looking at another model of entrepreneurial innovation and context, really looking at that university and extension context that we work within, our city, urban, metro context, the technology that we have access to, and much more, recognizing that context is an important part in the work that we do in innovation. As an entrepreneurial organization, we really benefit from having a planned approach for sourcing both internal and external ideas for innovations. Some are brand new products, new to the world or programs. Some are new to a market as we reach new audiences. Some are perhaps used in other sectors, and they're new to extension, a new system or process perhaps for internal value. New to a product line, a product extension, a product revision, product support. And this is common as we look at updating materials, moving them from just print to print and electronic, for example, extending them through translation to reach new audiences. As we look at the customer-focused approach to innovation, we've talked in a previous module about this awareness, trial, customer, friend, fan path of engagement with us. And as we look to improve the individual and community quality of life through our extension work in our cities so that we can be in the minds, hearts, conversations, and lives of more people in our very densely populated metro areas, how can we innovate along this path where we intentionally innovate to have a good first impression and then to move new audiences from that first impression to a trial experience, a connection with us, where then they can build relevance, become a customer, innovate for our friends who then provide referrals, and our fans who really value that sense of belonging. So really much more intentional about our innovation as we look at that customer focus. Some important concepts for us in this innovation in our cities is taking a portfolio versus a project approach to our development and really balancing high risk, high return projects with low risk and low return projects, balancing disruptive with continuous innovation, balancing projects with shorter term cycle times and payoffs with ones that have longer term cycles and impacts. Products and services that we develop for new markets, balancing those with ones that we're developing for existing markets. So it's not either or, but that balance of. And then projects using new emerging technologies with those relying on familiar technologies, and of course the blending of both. So some important concepts there, really taking a portfolio approach and looking at that balance. The entrepreneurial marketing approach and innovation brings stakeholders even closer to us as they become active participants. This is common throughout Extension, but really engaging them in decisions as we look at what programs or products we should keep or preserve, that we should destroy or eliminate, let go of, or create that are new. As we look at the innovation process, you may have seen many illustrations of innovation processes, and if you go online, there are many available to you. This is one that I've been playing with, looking at that product concept at the beginning and how we gather information through our partners. We do scans, crowdsourcing, and as we get information from different internal and external sources, begin to concept cluster to see where those patterns and best opportunities are. And then evaluating opportunities and what we're trying to do to intentionally create awareness, trial, customer, friends, or fans, evaluating for risk and benefit, evaluating for quality through peer review process, making sure we have our brand standards, and looking at to make sure we haven't had any copyright infringements. So that kind of evaluation from that portfolio perspective, and then looking at prototyping and testing. And this is a very fluid process that looks at from the market factors. And so we look at the product pricing, packaging, and messaging from a customer's point of view and testing it out and making sure that we have a really thoughtful approach to that prototyping and testing. And then the launch, evaluation, and communication of impact. And this is not just an isolated group of people that are involved in innovation. In Extension, there are lots of groups. So our educators and specialists, our internal teams that support us through operations, our impact and program area leaders, our organizational and development unit that's involved in professional development and organizational learning, our administrative leadership teams, our customers, volunteers, and partners. They each play a distinct role along this path. So in this module is an action assignment for you where you look at the characteristics of yourself as an innovative leader, looking at Extension-specific resources as well as some outside of Extension, and then identifying resources that are focused on innovation in your area of expertise or specialization, or an audience that you work with, looking at it from their point of view. So we've provided many general resources, and you can add some additional ones that are specific to your area of expertise. For your organization, looking at what resources are available from you from program development evaluation. Perhaps you have an ed tech unit. You may also have a professional development unit that helps with innovation. So cast that net and look at the resources that are available to you. Engage in an improv exercise or two where you have conversations that involve the yes and instead of the yes but. Some resources online for you to help engage in those types of activities. And then doing an innovation survey assessment to see how if your organization is a strategic innovator, and then blending that information with some other resources to add that context, that essential context piece. For discussion, you can get involved with your colleagues to look at how you're integrating research and extension in your work. You can engage in participatory innovation and co-discovery in the city and share how you're doing that and see how you can make some continuous improvement. This was an interesting study from the Center for Creative Leadership that asked senior executives if they thought innovation was important and what was important to them. And when it came to innovation, 94% said innovation was important. And they reported that only 14% said that they were actually effective at it. So we're not alone in seeking to be better at innovation in our larger cities. As you do that, consider then, where do you think extension organizations could focus their efforts to become even more innovative? There are many multimedia resources available for you, some specific to extension. There's been a national innovation task force. There's eXtension has resources. A team of education technology specialists have adopted the Adobe Kickbox program for extension, and even most recently worked with the national extension directors with that to take people through a more formal innovation process, and you get to the point where you can actually pitch your innovation. And so it's a great resource. You can get involved in resources outside of Extension. This is one, the PDMA, the Product Development and Management Association, and you can actually register for free. You have to give them a little bit of information. But then you have the opportunity to do another self-assessment. You can download some resources like the Innovation Guide here on this slide. Some optional activities for you if you engage in a journal, looking at what stage of the innovation process best aligns with your competencies and interests, recognizing that everybody has different strengths that they bring. Innovation and Extension is a team sport. If you work with a mentor, work with them to review something that you created recently and see how intentional you were in that innovation process, and see in the future if there's some things that you want to maybe modify to be more intentional. If you work with a coach, talk with them about specific challenges or barriers and engage them in helping you seeing how you can move through some barriers for yourself. Some self-paced independent study, like I had mentioned, through PDMA. If you'd like, listen to a clip from Innovation Navigation that's available from the Wharton Business Radio Network, also in Sirius Radio. You can engage in an intentional innovation process and engage others as you'd like, develop some creative products, and as a team, enjoy this learning module and discuss what it's like in your environment to experience failure. Is it rewarded, not just encouraged or tolerated? What does it look like, and how can you create that environment together where you can have that continuous cycle of an innovation and that balanced approach to your portfolio? I'm Dr. Julie Fox from Ohio State University. I hope you've enjoyed this module. Look forward to continuing to learn with you as urban extension professionals.